Hello, Augustana. Welcome to our pre-Sunday text study, a reflection on the upcoming preaching text for this week. And as we get to the middle of August, our reading for Sunday is from the book of Deuteronomy. And just a couple of things about Deuteronomy. It's basically a long sermon, and the beginning part of the book transitions from the leadership of Moses and the fact that Israel, the people of God, are on the verge of entering the promised land. And in chapter 5, the reiteration of the giving of the law on Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments, is written down, a reminder of what happened on Mount Sinai and God's covenant or God's agreement with the people of Israel through the law. And Moses in this book of Deuteronomy is lifting up the importance of that relationship, that powerful relationship that God chose the Hebrew people as his people, and this is how he wants them to live, and this is what's most important. There are certain passages of Scripture that kind of jump out more than others, and in terms of both where they're located and what they have to say, and our reading from chapter 6, actually the whole chapter, but the beginning part of the chapter, which we're reading for Sunday morning, really is one of those, because Jesus quotes this when he is talking in the four Gospels, and this is really central to any relationship with God. It's central to the Jewish understanding of God and their relationship with God, and so this is really an important text. We're reading the first 9 verses of chapter 6. Let me just share it with you. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the ordinances, that the Lord your God charged me to teach you to observe in the land that you are about to cross into and occupy, so that you and your children and your children's children may fear the Lord your God all the days of your life, and keep his decrees and his commandments that I am commanding you, so that your days may be long. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe them diligently, so that it may go well with you, and so that you may multiply greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. Keep these words that I am commanding you today in your heart. Recite them to your children, and talk about them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise. Bind them as a sign on your hand, fix them as an emblem on your forehead, and write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. You can kind of sense the gravity, the importance of what Moses is telling the people of Israel in these 9 verses. This is the commandment, the most important commandment he's talking about. And he reiterates with them that this is what God charges Moses to teach you, Israel, to obey and to observe in the land that you are about to cross into and occupy. And this is the reason, verse 2, so that, and those 2 words are mentioned 3 times in these first few verses, and I think they're indicative of the importance of what Moses is trying to tell the people of God and us, of the importance of obeying this commandment. So that you and your children and your children's children may fear the Lord your God all the days of your life, and keep all his decrees and his commandments that I am commanding you, so that your days may be long. In other words, I think what Moses is trying to tell us and the people of God is that this matters. It's very important, and it makes a difference, so that you may live long in the land that you are about to occupy. And that can be translated, I think, to our lives in many different ways, so that we may live long, we may live well, to use the words of Jesus, that we may live abundantly. And what that means is living in a deep, I think, committed relationship with God and understanding God's role in each of our lives. And then he says in verse 5, "Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe them diligently, again, so that it may go well with you, and so that you may multiply greatly in the land flowing with milk and honey, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has promised you." Again, the commandment matters because the commandment is indicative of our relationship with God, of the people of Israel's relationship with God, and the importance of their part in that relationship of not only knowing and observing the commandments, but literally of loving God. And then in verse 4, we have this very famous, well-known thing called the Shema, and that's just the Hebrew word for hear. Hear, O Israel. In other words, the importance of this is being explained to us by that word hear, in that this is important. Listen up. Pay attention. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. One God only, that you have allegiance to, that you follow, that you love. And the very first commandment, the most important commandment, this is the commandment, is then stated here in verse 5, that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. That's the most important commandment of all the commandments. And when we observe that commandment, when we diligently try to keep it in our lives, that's when our lives go well. We're grounded, we're in relationship with God, and we cannot overestimate the importance of what it means to observe and to obey this commandment, that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And then to emphasize the importance of this, the last part of the text for Sunday, we're told what to do with this word, these words. Keep these words that I am commanding you today in your heart, not your head, but in your heart. Recite them to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you are away, when you are lie down and when you rise. In other words, this commandment is to be part of your life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is to be always with you in your heart. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Fix them as an emblem on your forehead, and write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And what Moses is telling the people and telling us is, do not forget this word. Do not forget this commandment. Do not forget this invitation, this relationship that God gives to us, that we are to love God with heart, soul, mind, and strength. Jesus speaks about this in the New Testament a number of times. He's a good Jew, and he understands the importance of that relationship, that God has our best interests in mind, and as we love God with heart, soul, mind, and strength, we honor God, and life goes well, so that we may live long in the land that God provides for us, so that our lives are in alignment with God. It's an important reading, it's an important text, and it's one that speaks directly and importantly into our lives as people of God. So I look forward to having you in worship on Sunday. Read the text over, listen to it, put it in your heart, and hear this commandment. Thank you.